Welcome back to I Want That Too, the show where we do a deep dive into the world of Disney merchandise, sharing the stories behind some of your favorite collectibles. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, the lovely Lauren Hersey.
Oh, thanks, Jim. Hi. So today we have an exciting show. We are taking a trip down memory lane to go back to some of Walt Disney World's original 1971 attractions and the latest merch that celebrates those experiences. So excited to jump into that. Plus, in today's feature, Jim is talking all about the Haunted Mansion, past, present, and future.
That's right, Lauren. We've got a great show lined up for the folks today. But first, let's give a big shout out to our sponsor. And of course, that is touringplans.com, which sponsors the show. And if you're planning a trip to Disney or Universal, let's be honest, it can be overwhelming with so much to see and do. But with Touring Plans, you get personalized planning tools and crowd insights that can help you skip those long lines and make the most of your visit. So save both time and money by checking out Touring Plans. Now, speaking of visiting Disney and Universal, Lauren, you and the family have just returned from your very first trip to the Universal Orlando Resort with a detour to Disney. And and again, I want to hear about that trip, but I also I want you to talk about whatever cool merch you saw, in your time down there.
Yeah. So, I mean, first and foremost, I think that, Disney and Universal are always getting compared, but it was two totally different experiences. And something I have to mention is how surprised I was by the difference in the level of fandom from Disney to Universal. Like, the Universal fans are not nearly as intense and over the top as Disney fans. So my husband, he may have mentioned to you, because I know you guys have talked a couple times since you and I are talking about how I spent like $700 on Universal themed t-shirts. And I was seriously shocked that there were really no other families that were decked out in like Universal themed outfits. Like, you go to Disney and, you have matching shirts or even like coordinated outfits. And I think it did make our family kind of stand out. My mom bought us all like Despicable Me, like Minion shirts. It's not something I would normally have probably bought for myself, but we all were like representing looking crazy in our yellow shirts, and everybody was like, oh, you guys look great, you look great. And so, I mean, like, I wasn't totally surprised not to see as much like Minions, but I was surprised to see that like there wasn't as much like Harry Potter fan like outfits. I thought people would be like head to toe in their houses or their house colors, because I mean that's a pretty dedicated and I don't want to say extreme fans, but I mean they really do carry their own to Disney fans. But we did see, despite the high 90 degree weather, there definitely were adults and kids in their like full length wizard robes. So to you, I commend you. I couldn't do it in that type of heat, but we really did notice a big difference. And I mean, like, we bought some stuff. Like, I think Eric got 2 t-shirts while we were there, but
What's interesting is that, in fact, when you were down there, Universal for the summer of 2024, the Florida park is doing a big nostalgia push. In fact, their Spotlight store there, you could get Back to the Future merch, you could get Jaws merch, that sort of thing. I mean, Universal is actively trying to develop nostalgia, for its parks, Whereas Disney, again, been around since 71, as you mentioned at the top of the show. You're talking about multiple generations now who've been to Disney, and we're kind of carrying on mom and dad's tradition of, oh, well, we all got to get T-shirts that match. So I wonder if we jump ahead 20 years, if Universal will have that Disney-esque thing going on that you and Eric did. But anyway, getting back to the Harry Potter merch, you really have to be committed to do a rope in July in Florida. But did you see any other interesting Harry Potter merch?
Well, we did. So of course we had to do the wand experience. I think that they raised their prices. I mean, inflation is it's really something. So they were $70 a piece, just about with tax. The pre-show they put on, it was really cute. I could appreciate that. But going into the actual gift shop where you get your wand, it felt a little bit lacking. It was just like a wall of wands, and it's like, pick one you like. It's like, well, how do I know? There are, like 2 plaque areas that tell you what they mean. So they all 3 got their wands, and they were really eager to go out onto the streets of Diagon Alley and do some spells, which was fun. But a lot of the places you could do your spells were broken. They were down.
No.
Yeah. And my oldest son, I don't think his wand worked once. But it was like a great memory to have. So no regrets. But the most practical thing that we got was, we had some of the like Gringotts cash that you go and you can exchange your real money for, Gringotts banknotes. And we were there one evening, and the forecast did not call for any rain. Like, cause normally we'll have our poncho bag. Like, we're very prepared if there's going to be rain. And it poured and it poured and it poured. And so we were in Diagon Alley, which is so nice that half of it is covered. But we got 2 ginormous Harry Potter umbrellas. And so we're like, oh, these are practical. We'll totally use, we'll be able to use those in everyday life. And not exactly merch, but I have to mention, and I'm wondering if anybody else that's gone to Universal, within the last probably 10 years has had this, but my husband, Eric, has developed quite the Butterbeer obsession.
Oh, dear.
Like, I'm pretty sure that we ended up spending at least a car payment's worth of money towards Butterbeer, proper and frozen. Listen, on a hot day, the frozen butterbeer was delightful, but he had to have like 3 a day to keep him functioning.
Well, I mean, it is almost entirely sugar. So yeah, I could see in that heat and keeping going as you march through the parks. That's why, as a diabetic, I'm always, I will try the newest butterbeer concoction. In fact, there were the butterbeer icy pops that were debuted this year. Did you guys find those? Or?
No. Oh, geez. Don't tell Eric.
Okay. All right. Well, now, okay, back to Disney World now. And obviously you guys, while you were there at the Magic Kingdom, must have checked out Tiana's Bayou Adventure and, must have gotten into the shop. Did you check out the merch there at the Critter Co-op and all that?
We did. I mean, I feel like we've been talking about it for so long that we had to see it in person. So we were lucky enough to get the virtual queue and do the ride. So we got to get into the gift shops in the proper way. So upon exit and then the Critter Co-op, it was all the things that we had previously covered. And I really did notice the standout of there only being 2 of the 6 critters that were being sold in plushies. So there was Rufus the turtle and Apollo the raccoon. So I'll be anxious to see if they catch on, because there were a lot of them. Or, will they end up at the character warehouse and we'll never get the other 4? We'll have to wait and see on that, I guess.
That we will. Okay.
And then something we did not cover on our last episode, which was, I mean, a lot about the Tiana Bayou Adventure merch, was the cute little fireflies. I don't know if you saw those in the little fireflies are glowing. They're in a jar. There's a little pink lily inside. But the cutest thing is when the two fireflies get close to each other, they like light up and react to each other to like say hello.
Oh, okay. A proximity thing. That's cool. Okay.
Yeah. And I mean, like, there were a ton of people around that area, but the weird thing was, I never saw anybody in the park that actually was carrying them, but people really wanted to see what they were. I don't know if the $32 price tag, like, scared them off.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they really are about this big.
Not sizable, but charming.
And then what I saw was something that was way more upscale than anything I think I've seen in the parks for sale before. But we were having dinner at Tony's Town Square restaurant that night. And on my way out, there's the gift shop that shares the space with the lobby of Tony's. And I saw this like giant piece of artwork. And it's Tiana and Prince Naveen, and they're celebrating like the finale of Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And this piece of art, Jim, was $15,625. It could be all yours for 16 grand.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I think when we were pre-gaming, you mentioned that this was created by New Orleans native Varian Laurent, right? So it was part of Disney's outreach to the local community. I'm not entirely sure that price point is what it appears to be. That it may be one of these things where we're trying to help an artist in New Orleans and trying to do outreach for the community, not necessarily, appealing to the same person who's, well, face it, anybody who's balking at a $32 firefly, he isn't going to go for the $15,000 painting either. But yeah.
But I mean, I will say though that they did so if 16,000 was a bit much, I think there was a $500, $600 version down to maybe like a couple $100 of the same painting, just really scaled down. So maybe they are trying to help a local artist, but
there we go.
It just caught my eye and I was like, what?
And face it, there will always be the person who wants the original as opposed to, the print, or for that matter, the print on canvas. I mean, there are typically several tiers that they do for a piece of art like this.
Right. And I think Len was talking about it on like the last Disney Dish, that he's into, maybe not as much the t-shirts and all of that, but things that are really unique to Disney. So I don't know if it's a one of a kind, but Len, you never know. There's a nice piece of artwork waiting at Tony's for you.
Okay. I'll let him know.
All right, so we have covered the newest Disney World attraction, but I've got to mention one of the opening day attractions that recently received a makeover. You know which one I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I want to get the name right. It's the Country Bear Musical Jamboree, right?
Yep, you got it. And, not to get too far down the rabbit hole on the new attraction. I mean, I think you and Len did a really good job of covering it on the dish. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I thought that I was not going to like it because I'm becoming an old cranky lady and I don't always like when they take the nostalgic things out of the park that I appreciate. They did a really nice job with the attraction. My kids were singing, we actually went and saw it twice. But the reason I'm talking about the Country Bears Musical Jamboree is because they got a new t-shirt at Walt Disney World. And it is $34.99, and which, like you mentioned on our last show, seems to be the new $19.99.
There we go.
Thanks, Amazon. But the shirt was nice. It was beige, and it had a background that, it had red and brown text, and on the front it had the Country Bears logo with the phrase "a wild and woolly good time," which I didn't realize that was the tagline. Did you know that?
I know, and the fact that it didn't exactly stick out. I maybe try again, Disney. But anyway, all right. What else is wonderful about this shirt?
Well, this is the official Country Bears shirt, so it does have a Magic Kingdom logo below the Country Bears. But on the back, it's pretty cool because it mirrors the new poster that is the new attraction poster that's at the front of Magic Kingdom. So it says Grizzly Hall, Country Bear Musical Jamboree, and it has all of the characters from the attraction. So really nice official shirt if you are looking for bragging rights, like you were there when it first opened. Yeah, but if the official shirt isn't quite your jam, I found one at Walmart too. And I thought it was a pretty nice alternative. Obviously, it doesn't say Magic Kingdom on it, but it does feature like Liver Lips now as Romeo. So it has the new, blown up characters. Has Henry in the middle and then all of the others around him. And now this one is only $21.57, which apparently is Walmart's version of the new, like 1997 for them. I don't know.
There we go. Okay. So now we both know that there's been a lot of buzz about this new attractions update, the fresh looks for the Country Bears. You just mentioned Romeo. But do you know the original story of how the Bears came to be part of Disney's lineup?
I would say kind of at best. Like, weren't they originally supposed to be at a ski resort that Walt Disney wanted to build?
That is true. In fact, I think it was your husband, Eric, who noted that in the script for the new show, again, the Country Bear Musical Jamboree, there's actually a nod to this project. Henry, the show's MC, as he's introducing Ernest, that's the bear who fiddles supercalifragilisticexpialidocious so fast that his instrument starts smoking. Anyway, Henry mentions that as part of Ernest's intro that he used to play with the Mineral Kings.
Yes, and that's where this Disney designed ski resort that was originally supposed to be built, that's where that came from, right? Mineral King?
Yep. And this was supposed to be built in, the technical term is a subalpine glacial valley in the southern portion of Sequoia National Forest. Now, important to note here that back in the early 1960s, it was the National Forest Service that decided that it wanted to develop this corner of what was then Sequoia National Forest, not Sequoia National Park. And that Disney was the company that the U.S. Forest Service selected to then develop this remote piece of real estate.
Okay, and wasn't the plan to build a self-contained alpine village like right there in the glacial valley where vacationers, they could, stay, they can come during the winter months, ski down Mineral Hill slopes, something like that?
Yeah. In fact, that was the plan. And originally, if you look at the press accounts from '65, this project was going to cost $35 million to build, but it was going to be a year-round resort. It was going to have a chapel, a conference center, 10 restaurants, and its very own ice rink, plus lots of places for people to stay when they came to ski, or if they came during the summer months, they could then hike the trails in and around Mineral King and then take in the truly spectacular views.
Wow, I didn't realize it was such a big project. I thought it was something that maybe Walt was just dreaming up. So it's a big, had big plans. Where do the Bears come in?
Well, okay. So the thinking was, after a full day of skiing, people were going to come back to Mineral King's main lodge and want to relax. And as they sat there in this public space, that they should be entertained by something. Now, where this gets interesting is on a parallel track in Imagineering, because you got to remember, this is December of '65. Work is already gotten underway on the version of It's a Small World that was going to open at Disneyland Park in just 6 short months, and May 28th, 1966, to be exact. But what was going to make this version of Small World different than the one that had been built in Flushing Meadow as part of the 1964 New York World's Fair was the elaborate clockwork in its facade that chimes every 15 minutes.
Oh, I know that. That's where all the little kids march out as the Small World theme starts to play. Like, I totally know that. And, I remember seeing that when Eric and I took the kiddos to Disneyland last October. So let me guess here, though. Walt wanted something like this in the main lobby. Is this where you're heading with it? He wanted something like this in the main lobby at Mineral King, some sort of like clock that would go off every 15 minutes. Only instead of little kids marching, it was supposed to be bears.
Yeah. Now, that was the idea that Walt supposedly started with, or so said Marc Davis. I was lucky enough, Lauren, to get to visit Marc in his home in Los Feliz. That's where this Disney legend lived with his equally talented bride. In fact, what was kind of interesting is they were literally just up the hill from where Disney's first studio was, the Hyperion Studios. But again, this visit would have been in the early 90s. And over the course of that visit, Marc was kind enough to show me all sorts of concept art for the Bear Band show.
So when did the project go from like being this elaborate bear-themed clock to something where there would be animatronic bears that did a show?
Well, all right. As Marc explained it to me, this was typically the way Walt worked. That initially there'd be a simple idea, relatively simple. It's like, again, in this case, it's a bear band theme or a bear themed clock, just like the one that was being built at this very same time for Disneyland's version of It's a Small World. But then after that first meeting, Walt would go off and think for a bit. And then at the next meeting on the same project, he'd say something like, I think we should go bigger. Could this maybe be a show instead? And also worth noting, Lauren, there was precedent. I mean, think about it. The Enchanted Tiki Room, an animatronic show featuring animals and music that had opened at Disneyland in June of 1963. So it's not really all that big a jump to get to a bear show.
Right. So, but this is the part when the bear clock becomes the bear show because Walt said, make it bigger, make it better.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing. Okay. So you got to remember, Mineral King is supposed to be an alpine themed ski resort. So Marc's first pass on a bear band show has all of these bears in lederhosen, and they're wearing those hats you see people wear when they go to Oktoberfest. The one with the little feather on the side. So,
yeah, I do. I know exactly the hats, like beer garden style.
There we go. There we go. All right.
Okay, but I mean that sounds like it'd be a fun show to watch. Like only if, but instead of playing country music, they would be a bunch of bears, yodeling or.
No, this is again an oompa band. Yes, no, you're right. And Marc showed me a drawing of a bear playing a tuba with these big inflated cheeks that's dressed in a lederhosen and again wearing, the beer garden hat. And Marc said when he showed this drawing to Walt, he just laughed and laughed. He was very, very enthusiastic about this version of the Bear Band show. Now, what makes this story a little melancholy is Marc showed this to Walt on the very last time he ever met with Walt. Nobody knew. This is November of 1966. He'd just come out of the hospital after what everybody was being told was, operation for polo injury. But this is when they took out, most of his cancerous lung and, they effectively told Lily, he's got a year, and then we lost him in 3 weeks. But Anyway, so but again, he comes into to Mark's office, and Mark shows him all these Bear Band things, and Walt just laughs and laughs, and Walt would typically do is like, okay, well, that's good, all right, and he'd walk out of your office, and it'd be done. But he said for the first time ever, Walt turned to him and said, goodbye, Mark, and it was just sort of sat there, and Mark sat there, and it's like, because he could also see that, he just looked sick. He was yellow, and it was like he went home and told, Alice he's a dead man, and but that's the thing, but this was Walt's last laugh.
So what happened to the bear show then? If he was laughing, I don't know if it was good laughter, bad laughter about our yodeling bears. I mean, how did we get to it being country bears?
Well, okay. So first and foremost, after we lose Walt in December of '66, organizations like the Sierra Club reach out to the state of California and the U.S. Forest Service, and they voice their opposition to developing even a remote corner of a Sequoia National Forest. And over time, that derailed the project.
But the bears live on, right?
They do. But again, largely because, Mark shared this story about Walt loved this. Walt really laughed at this. We need to do this.
So how did we get from the Oompa band to country music?
Well, okay. So there were a number of stops along the way. Mark showed me concept art for a bear band where all of the animatronic players would have been playing brass instruments and worn, bright red uniforms and hats with plumes like the Disneyland marching band used to wear. Mark also dreamed up versions of this show where, again, you're out of a ski area, so you got to figure out what are the bears doing. So now the bears are playing ragtime or they're playing Dixieland. He tries all of these different musical styles.
Only to land on country music because...
well, this is part of the story. All right, I'm serious. This is what Mark told me exactly. That, first of all, part of this was largely by default, because think about it. Adventureland at the Magic Kingdom in Florida already had it, slotted its own sit-down animatronic show, the Sunshine Pavilion, a.k.a. the Enchanted Tiki Room. Fantasyland at the Magic Kingdom of Florida also had its own sit-down animatronic show, the Mickey Mouse Revue. And Liberty Square, Hall of Presidents, Tomorrowland would eventually have two sit-down shows with animatronics of Flight to the Moon and Carousel of Progress.
And that just leaves Main Street USA and Frontierland at Florida's Magic Kingdom. Those were really, it sounds like, the only two parts of the park that didn't already have a sit-down animatronic show either then or planned.
Well, now, this is where it gets so interesting, because you mentioned earlier in the show today that you and the family went to have dinner at Tony's Town Square restaurant. Well, right next to, in fact, just past where you saw the $15,000 painting from Tiana's Bayou Adventure, right next to that, where they now do the meet and greet with Mickey, there used to be a theater complex. In fact, this is where you used to go to see the Walt Disney Story. This was a film that the company put together. I want to say it started running in like 1973. With the notion of, let's tell you about the guy who, this resort is named after. But again, for a time they considered, well, what if we did the bear show, the brass band or the rag one or something like that in this theater space right there on Main Street?
But that didn't get built. So why did we end up with the Country Bear Jamboree in Frontierland?
Okay, now this is the part of the story I know that people will probably have a hard time with, but I swear to God, I got this straight from Marc Davis. All right, so if you can go on Google and do this right now. If you look at the top rated TV shows from the 1968 to 1969 television season, and by the way, that is the time period where, WDI is working with Disney's board of directors, and they're locking down exactly what they're going to build in Florida as part of the Walt Disney World project. Anyway, Lauren, many of the most popular shows during this era in television were sitcoms that were either set in rural settings or prominently featured comical characters from the country. So we're talking about shows like The Beverly Hillbillies, Green Acres, Gomer Pyle USMC, and Mayberry RFD.
Oh my gosh, it makes so much sense now. Finally, I guess I never really gave it that much thought, but I'm assuming that that's how we wound up with the country themed bear show, right? Like it was popular for the time.
Well, but the interesting thing is that, Marc had a front seat for this entire design process. In fact, he talked a lot about, that was the thing when you worked with Walt Disney. Walt liked it when you walked into a meeting with a bunch of ideas. In fact, there's a famous story about an Imagineer who once walked into Walt's office with a single piece of concept art and had a pitch for an attraction and finished the pitch and, and pointed to the concept painting for the attraction and said, "What do you think?" And Walt, reportedly said, "Well, it's hard to choose between one." I mean, so what Marc would do, again, Marc would come in like with a set of drawings and like, again, Walt looked at the wall and here was this whole series of bear drawings and different styles and there was that bear in lederhosen playing the tuba. And it's like, that's funny. That's what I want to do. So, but anyway, again, got the story straight from Marc and again, let's not forget that, get right down to it. Frontierland still needed a sit down animatronic show of its own. So.
Well, that was a heck of a story. And now it makes so much sense as we got, our new all grown up bears. And I mean, I think it's only proper that we know where they came from. So, and just down the street from the all new Country Bears musical Jamboree is the Haunted Mansion. And when we come back, Mr. Hill and I will be discussing all of the new Haunted Mansion merch that's been created for the 55th anniversary of the opening of this theme park favorite. And in today's feature, Jim is also going to be talking about the Haunted Mansion's past, present, and future. So stay tuned. And we're back.
Okay, so back to the family's most recent trip to Florida. And again, obvious that you got some time in the Magic Kingdom. So and you were mentioning the 55th anniversary merch for Mansion. So, what was that like?
Well, I'm sure you're going to tell us why there is so much Haunted Mansion everywhere. Like, it wasn't just in the Magic Kingdom and Memento Mori. I mean, like, we got there the first night because we did a day at Disney, 5 at Universal, and the back to Disney. And so we were at Springs for the new Dreams That Soar drone show. And yeah, so we go into World of Disney, and what's front and center? It's all Haunted Mansion. And while we were down there, we visited both character warehouses, and they both had Haunted Mansion. And then whichever store that you went into, at Magic Kingdom, like they at least had something Haunted Mansion. So it was, there was a lot. I was trying to get my daughter, Lainey, who's, teenager, to get the Madame Leota Halloween costume at the character warehouse. She wasn't necessarily feeling it, but
okay, I get that. Okay,
girls
all right.
Gotta try. So it was Haunted Mansion everywhere.
And anything particularly leap out at you, or?
Well, at the character warehouse, they had, from spirit jerseys, Crocs, pins, figurines. So if, people don't want to pay full price for their Haunted Mansion merch, hit up the Character Warehouse. But we did have a chance to go into Memento Mori, where, if you are a Haunted Mansion fan, they have all types of new items, floor to ceiling, except for they really do need to bring back do you remember when you can go get your photo in Memento Mori, and then if you turn it one way you're normal and you turn it the other you're like a ghost?
Oh yeah,
That
yeah.
was so great.
It was. It was. They have tried a lot of interesting things in that space. So
Yeah. Well, what I saw, they have a really cool new spirit jersey, and they're doing this whole glow in the dark line. So the spirit jersey is like a black and gray tie dye. It's the puffy letters. So on the front, it's the Haunted Mansion logo with the HM crest and bats. I'm sure you're familiar. And then the back, you also have that puffy letters, and it is the 3 hitchhiking ghosts, glow in the dark, and it is $79.99. They had several different Loungefly backpacks, but the one I want to highlight here is they had a Hatbox Ghost Loungefly, which is totally different. Maybe since Magic Kingdom in Florida has the Hatbox Ghost now, but it was really cool. So I also really liked the singing busts, light up figure. It was pretty big, and it had that's my favorite part of the ride. So it had all 5 of the singing busts from the graveyard scene. I know you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
And so you flip the switch and the pedestals light up, and you can hear Grim Gritty Ghosts from the attraction soundtrack. We all know that one. Nice earworm. And this one, though, will run you $165. So maybe you can phone a friend that has an annual pass discount or a cast member discount or something.
Might be a good idea. Okay,
do that. So all of the items that I just talked about, they're in both the Disney World and Disneyland theme park, but they also are at the DisneyStore.com, so you can check those out there.
Got it. Okay, but did you see anything interesting that was exclusive to the park?
There were definitely, the selection was way bigger in the parks than it is right now on the DisneyStore.com. So they had several different types of women's PJs for $54.99, which was kind of odd, but they were kind of cute and kind of soft and comfy. So I'll be anxious to see if those end up at the Character Warehouse. But they had his and hers doggy costumes. Which I don't think I've ever seen those before. Maybe Halloween's coming up. It seemed like they were really leading in heavy to the gargoyles, and there was a water bottle, and it looked like it would injure somebody if you threw it to somebody, I guess. It was very sturdy. But and then they had a backpack with the same gargoyle design. That was something that I was seeing over and over, because you always get the wallpaper, you get the hitchhiking ghost, you get the Hatbox Ghost, you get Madame Leota, so the gargoyle was definitely a new shout out. But speaking of Madame Leota, I am kicking myself so hard. I just told Eric today, I'm I might have to get on the Disney store and order this Madame Leota shirt. So I saw it when I was there, and it's teal. It looks totally different. You get the Haunted Mansion stuff. It's normally a lot of black, but this shirt is teal. And it says it has the Haunted Mansion logo on the front, and the back it looks like an advertisement or a poster. It says Leota's spiritual messaging service to and from regions beyond, specializing in sympathetic vibrations. And I feel like I really need this. It's $29.99.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, that like it wasn't just Memento Mori. There were Haunted Mansion items in a lot of the shops. Huge display at Disney Springs. So if you're in that area, I would definitely suggest checking it out. You have a lot to choose from. But like, do you know, Jim? Like, why is Disney going so hard like on Haunted Mansion right now? I mean, is it because we're a couple months out from Halloween?
Well, not exactly. In fact, let's be clear here. It is certainly not because of last year's Haunted Mansion movie. Did you get to see that when it was out in theaters last year?
I did. I did see it. I thought it was like better than what I was anticipating, but I probably wouldn't have watched it with my 7-year-old if I had to do it over.
Oh, that's an interesting point. And
It wasn't like it was actually like there were some scary, like real scary parts and not like what you get in the Haunted Mansion where it's very family
well, no, no,
friendly.
no. That and let me be clear here. I'm on board any movie that has Danny DeVito and Jamie Lee Curtis. I'm there. But here's the thing: that Justin Simon movie, which again, by the way, came out 1 year ago today.
No way.
Seriously, that we are recording this show on Sunday, July 28th, 2024. So it opened in theaters July 28th, 2023, and Disney spent $150 million in this movie, and you got to admit it looked great. They spent
Did.
an addition. It did spend an additional 30 to promote the thing, only to have this thing just completely underperform at the box office. It only sold 67 million worth of tickets in North America, an additional 49 overseas. Worldwide total box office is just 117 million.
Okay, well then, quick question. So, why would Disney release a movie about the Haunted Mansion in the middle of summer? Wouldn't it have been smarter to like release the film in October around, maybe Halloween? Like, which is when moviegoers might be in the mood for something spooky and silly. Like, what are they thinking? And I feel like they've done this before.
They have. And what's interesting is from what people at the studio told me when I brought this up last year was, by the way, this is the second time Disney's done a Haunted Mansion movie. I don't know if you remember the first one, the one with Eddie Murphy that came out in theaters in what was 20 years earlier, November of 2003.
I mean, but my personal favorite was the Muppets.
Well,
Was that just 2 years
okay.
ago? That counts, right?
There we go. You and me both, by the way. You and me both. Okay, but the hope was with this second Haunted Mansion movie from Disney was that it would be so popular that by the time October rolled around, it would still be in theaters, and that Disney would then be able to tweak its marketing campaign, convince people, hey, you got to go see Haunted Mansion again because while it's still out in theaters, have your Halloween trick or treat.
I mean, I don't know, Disney. It seems like a poor choice for a release date for the Haunted Mansion. I mean, that's just my opinion, but
Well, and if there's any consolation here, when Disney first released Hocus Pocus to back in 1993, and let's be honest here, that is a movie that almost screams "Release me at Halloween." They did the exact same thing, Lauren. They put this Bette Midler movie out into theaters in the middle of July. In fact, July 16th, 1993, where Hocus Pocus died a dog's death in theaters. It only got rediscovered and became the pop culture phenomenon that it is today because, well, what did they used to call Freeform?
Lifetime Family, right? Or
Yeah, okay, ABC Family. Okay,
ABC Family, yes, ABC Family.
right. Okay, when they began repeatedly airing Hocus Pocus as part of their 31 Days of Halloween programming event.
Okay, so but didn't I see something about Hocus Pocus 3 coming out? Like, is that going to be in theaters in the summer?
Well,
Like, what's going on with that?
Okay, that actually just this week we got some news about this. People at Disney have been talking about a third film in that series ever since Hocus Pocus 2 debuted on Disney Plus back in late September of 2022, and then broke all sorts of viewing records, for that subscription streaming service. So, Bette Midler was on QVC this past week. And she got asked about, what's going on. And she said, well, I've heard that Disney does have a script for Hocus Pocus 3, but that Midler herself has yet to see it. And again, I know you're not supposed to reveal a woman's age, but okay, here's the thing. Bette's 78. Kathy Najimy is 67. And Sarah Jessica Parker is 59. And Bette, you gotta love Bette Midler. She was very blunt about the fact that Disney really needs to get a move on if they want another reunion with the Sanderson sisters. I mean, here's the direct quote from Midler's appearance on the QVC Plus talk show Busy this week. He said, look, I think if Disney wants another Hocus Pocus movie, they got to get moving because time is not just marching. Time is barrel-assing to the finish line. I mean, get us while we're still breathing. And so...
You're right. You gotta love Bette Midler and her humor. But she's not wrong. They probably need to get moving, Disney, if you're gonna do this thing. So you were saying that all this new Mansion merch was not just because of last year's Haunted Mansion movie. So what's the real reason that they're really leaning into the Haunted Mansion?
Well, okay. Now, you and the family, you just mentioned last October you were out at the Disneyland Resort, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and you could have gotten on the mansion while you were out there because they didn't shut it down till January of this year. Did you guys get, in fact, you would have gotten to see Haunted Mansion Holiday, right?
Yes, it was Haunted Mansion Holiday. We did it, like probably 3 or 4 times. So
Oh.
I was really looking forward to seeing it in the original version.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like that's going to be happening, not even when we're out for D23. And I think we're going back in March. So maybe by then it'll be open.
Maybe, but on the other hand, you were just talking about how much you enjoyed the singing bus, and you got those cool pumpkin versions of them with Haunted Mansion Holiday. Like, I love that same scene, but I got to tell you, I also love the Haunted Mansion Holiday version with the singing pumpkins.
Oh my gosh, it was beyond. It was beyond. It was so good. But I wanted to see the original too. You know what I mean? I guess you can't have it all, but
I get it. I get it. And good things come to those who wait. So, but anyway, all right. Right now, that entire side of the park is basically behind construction fences because, well, not just because they're changing Splash Mountain out there into the West Coast version of Tiana's Bayou Adventure, but have you heard about this project that they're doing with the mansion in California?
I just know that side of the park is behind the construction barriers because I think they're getting like a gift shop. Right?
Well, yeah. It's actually a two-part thing, which, interestingly enough, has very little to do with the mansion itself, but the pre-show portion and the post-show portion. Now, as you mentioned, pre-show, they're taking the exterior queue of the building and radically expanding it and retheming it, and there'll be more cover, more air conditioning, more theming. So, a more pleasant experience. And by the way, also worth noting here, Lauren, that this is going to get confusing. But tomorrow, and when I say tomorrow, I want to remind you folks that Lauren and I are recording on Sunday, July 28th. So we're actually talking about Monday, July 29th. But Disneyland's Haunted Mansion reopens tomorrow, Monday, July 29th. But here's the thing, Lauren. Because they have not finished the queue, what they've decided to do is the attraction will open with a virtual queue.
Okay.
All right. So every morning, at 7 a.m. You'll be able to get on the Disneyland app and put a request in to be allowed into the mansion, which, by the way, is going to be doing the Haunted Mansion holiday version of the mansion.
What?
They
Wait, the
well,
Haunted Mansion. Wait. Haunted Mansion holiday is tomorrow?
yes, because see, the problem is that when you do Haunted Mansion holiday, you have to shut down the mansion for like 3 weeks to do the decoration. And the fact that mansion had already been closed for 6 months, and that they were going to be able to open in August, and then effectively have to close after Labor Day, and then do the retheme. It was just sort of like, all right, guys, let's just bite the bullet this year. It's Haunted Mansion holiday from August right until like the second week of January. Then we shut it down. Then we go back to Classic Mansion. But by the way, just to circle back to the queue, what I'm hearing is that will be ready by Labor Day. So at that point, Disney will step away from the virtual queue. Oh, I also need to mention here, virtual queue, you have 2 shots at getting into the virtual queue for the Haunted Mansion. Each day, the line opens up at 7 a.m. and then it reopens at 12 noon. But anyway, Lauren, you were mentioning
that's different than Florida. They do like a 1 o'clock drop. So you get 7 and 12?
That's 7 and 12. That's
good to know.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the gift shop.
Yes.
And by the way, this brings us all the way full circle here to why are we getting all of this amazing new mansion merch? And the reason we're getting it is for the first time ever, the Haunted Mansion in California is going to get a dedicated gift shop, the Carriage House.
Okay, and that's not like a cart situation. That's a full building. Is it going to be like Memento Mori size or like bigger?
Well, that's the interesting part of this, because they're going into this that the Carriage House is going to tell a story. I mean, and first, like this is the guest house where Madame Leota stayed when she would come to the mansion and host her world famous seances. So the what's interesting is that the merch will be positioned around Madame Leota's trunks and her her mystical paraphernalia. So going to be cool. But anyway, to sort of bring this full circle to why you were seeing all of that mansion merch at the Character Warehouse and brand new stuff in the world of Disney, obviously because they're opening up Disneyland's first ever dedicated Haunted Mansion themed store. Disney put all of this mansion merch into development. In fact, that teal shirt that you were just mentioning, I bet was originally designed to be put in the Carriage House.
That makes so much sense. If you look at the back of it, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, but this is the thing. They had to, and of course, because this project fell behind schedule. In fact, what I'm hearing is right now it looks like the Carriage House gift shop may open in late September. More likely will open in early October. But Disney had ordered all of this merchandise, assuming that we'll have this all done for summer. And when the store wasn't open, it's like, we got all this great mansion stuff that, to be honest, sells really well before Halloween. Suddenly after Halloween, demand kind of falls off. So you saw it suddenly get pushed out to other places like Memento Mori and like the World of Disney. But yes, this a lot of this stuff was specifically created with the Carriage House in mind. So, but anyway.
I wonder if they're going to get new and different merch than what's been pushed out all over the place in Florida.
But here's the really interesting bend on this story. Because again, we've talked previously on the show, and over on Disney Dish about the Beyond Big Thunder project, which, remember, that supposedly is going to feature a Disney Villains Land, which would be built next to the Haunted Mansion. So you have sort of an extended, weird, dark, mystical place. But the interesting thing is that the borders of the mansion in Florida might be expanding, Lauren.
Oh,
All right. From what I've been hearing, the concept is that even before you enter the grounds of the Haunted Mansion, it's like it's now seeped out beyond its borders. I mean, the notion is, you know, I mean, face it, Memento Mori is sort of, you know, it's a store that sells Haunted Mansion stuff, but it's not necessarily a genuinely creepy environment, you
right.
know. Okay. And across the street, you have the Columbia Harbor House. You have a quick service restaurant that serves, you know, fried fish and that sort of thing. It's like, but what if, as you came down the hill from Fantasyland, or as you're making the turn past the Hall of Presidents, suddenly you're in a Haunted Mansion themed mini land where, you know, Memento Mori now looks genuinely creepy, genuinely, you know, has a weird vibe to it now. And you go into the store and it has little effects and illusions, you know, that sort of extend the Haunted Mansion story. And for that matter, the Columbia Harbor House. What if you went in there and now it's filled with things that, you know, tells, you know, stories about, you know, tragedies at sea and, you know, that, you know, pirate ghosts and that sort of thing. I mean, what if the Magic Kingdom had, you know, instead of just a Haunted Mansion attraction, a Haunted Mansion mini land?
And I mean, for the Columbia Harbor House, like refaming, didn't you and Len share some concept art of what that could look like if they
Yeah.
went in that direction?
Now, mind you, this was something that the company looked at back in the early 90s. And what's interesting is that with the Beyond Big Thunder project and the notion of, you know, we're going to shut down this side of the park to do that, you know, this is an idea that's now being revisited. And I bring this up because, you know, Lauren and I are going to be out at the D23 Expo in just a couple of days. And you got to wonder at the Parks and Experiences panel that'll be held at the Honda Center, I want to say on Friday. No, wait a minute. That's Saturday. I want to say the studios is Friday. It'll be interesting to see what gets revealed.
It will be. And, you know, speaking of being out there for D23, it's not just you and I that are going to be out there. I just think this is the coolest thing. Obviously, Eric is going to be out there, my hubby. We're going to have a veteran Imagineer, Jim Scholl, with us. We've got Fine Tunings co-host Drew Taylor. We have Looking at Lucasfilm co-host Brian Gahn. We're all going to be there taking over Anaheim covering this 3-day long event. And it is my first D23 Expo. I know you are quite the veteran. Have you been to like all of them?
I have. And again, folks, if you see us there, please come up and say hello. You know, that we're, you know, we're grateful for your support of the show. So you want to chat, come on up. Oh, by the way, if you're not going to be at this year's D23 Expo, but if there's something that you'd like us to cover or let you know about, feel free to reach out to myself and Lauren.
Yes, absolutely. And speaking of this year's Expo, even though Eric and I just literally got back from Florida, I guess I'd better get started packing for next week's trip to California. I mean, what can you say? We're crazy, which is a good reason to close up shop for this episode of I Want That Too.
Okay, so how much money will I have to slip your husband to wear a Universal shirt at one day at this event? You know,
don't dare him. You know he will.
Okay.
He might get like if they still throw tomatoes at people, they might get him. But
all right, you know, I showed up at the wrong event. You know, where's the Universal Expo? So all right.
So if people you want to weigh in on Eric wearing Universal shirt to D23, feel free to reach out to us. Or if you want to, if you want us to check out anything at the expo for you, and you want us to cover, Jim, where can people find you to reach out?
Well, let's see. You can find me at X, Twitter, and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. And you, Lauren, where can folks find you?
All right. I am on Instagram at Lauren Hersey. Lauren at laurenhersey.com is my email. And I signed up for an X account. I don't know if you know this. I've never been a huge X user. I might actually be like the latest person to the Twitter now X game imaginable. Like, I think I had an account that I would like use to just, creep, but I actually, have an account now. So Lauren Hersey on X.
Cool. Okay. Well, I guess that's going to do it for this week's show, folks. So on behalf of the lovely Lauren Hersey, I am Jim Hill, and I want to thank you for listening to this week's episode of I Want That Too. And Ms. Hersey and I will see you soon.
See you soon.